The Galactic Empire spanned countless star systems, its reach unchallenged and its authority absolute. Known for ruthlessly quelling any hint of rebellion, the Empire relied on swift and overwhelming force to maintain control. For centuries, humanity had been one of its countless subjugated races, reduced to little more than laborers and soldiers conscripted into endless wars. The Empire viewed humans with contempt, dismissing them as a primitive species lacking the intelligence or strength to pose a genuine threat. But whispers of dissent had begun to emerge from the shadows of Earth. Small resistance movements were growing, their actions subtle but deliberate. For the first time in years, humanity's defiance was becoming visible. The Empire, unwilling to let even a flicker of rebellion grow into a flame, decided to act decisively. Their intelligence networks had identified a young boy, supposedly the child of a human resistance leader, someone destined to rise against them. A single strike would eliminate this threat before it could materialize. It wasn't an uncommon strategy for the Empire, who had perfected the art of targeted destruction to suppress unrest across the galaxy. And so, without hesitation or doubt, they unleashed their forces. The attack was precise and merciless. Imperial drones descended upon a quiet human settlement, leveling it in a matter of minutes. The screams of its inhabitants were silenced beneath the roar of plasma fire, leaving nothing but ash and rubble in the aftermath. In the Empire's records, the operation was marked as a success. They had eliminated their target and delivered a message: defiance would not be tolerated. For the officers who orchestrated the strike, it was just another mission in an endless campaign of control. The cost of innocent lives was inconsequential to them, mere collateral damage in their pursuit of order. But they had been wrong. The child they killed was not the son of a resistance leader. He was no revolutionary, no prodigy destined to lead humanity's uprising. He was an innocent boy, the only son of Marcus Kane, a man the Empire had long underestimated. Marcus Kane was a name the Empire once knew well, though it had faded from their concerns over the years. He was a legend of the human wars, a strategist whose brilliance had turned the tides of hopeless battles. His campaigns had cost the Empire dearly, forcing them to adopt harsher measures to finally crush humanity's resistance. But after Earth's fall, Kane had vanished, retreating to a quiet life to raise his son far from the violence that had defined his past. Now, standing amidst the ruins of his home, Marcus Kane stared at the scorched ground where his son had played only days before. The weight of his loss was unbearable, yet it did not break him. The grief that consumed him was soon replaced by something colder, sharper: rage. The Empire had taken everything from him, and in doing so, they had reignited a fire they thought extinguished. They believed they had silenced a threat, but all they had done was awaken a force they could not comprehend. Marcus knelt by the remains of his son's room, retrieving a small and scathed trinket, a toy spaceship his son had cherished. Holding it in his hand, he made a silent vow. This was no longer about justice or rebellion, it was personal. The Empire had declared war on him, and he would answer with a fury they could not contain. He would remind them why they had once feared his name. Marcus Kane, the man they thought was just a grieving father, would show them the full measure of humanity's strength when driven by loss. They thought they could kill hope, he whispered, his voice steady despite the storm raging within him. They've only created their worst enemy. Marcus Kane was no stranger to war. The quiet life he had chosen after Earth's fall had been his way of leaving that world behind. But now, standing amidst the ruins of everything he had fought to protect, he realized that peace had always been an illusion. The Empire had forced his hand, and the man who had once been the sharpest weapon of humanity's defiance would rise again. With a single purpose driving him, Marcus began his transformation, shedding the identity of a grieving father and reclaiming the mantle of a general who had once made entire fleets tremble. He returned to the underground bunker he had sealed away long ago, a relic of his days as a commander. Dust coated the weapons and equipment stored within, but the memories they carried remained sharp. His battle armor, scarred from countless skirmishes, still fit like a second skin. He moved with purpose, every piece of gear and every weapon reminding him of a past he had tried to forget. This was no longer about mourning or survival. This was preparation for a campaign that would shake the Empire to its core. Marcus didn't intend to act alone. He knew the value of alliances, of a united front against an overwhelming enemy. Using the old communication channels he had once relied on, he began reaching out. First, he contacted his former comrades, those who had fought alongside him during humanity's final days of independence. Many had scattered across the galaxy, taking refuge on fringe worlds or blending into alien societies. Their initial responses were wary. Most had resigned themselves to the Empire's rule, believing resistance to be futile. But as Marcus spoke, his words ignited something within them, an echo of the fire they had once carried. He wasn't asking for survival or submission. He was offering a chance to strike back. News of the Empire's attack and the death of his son spread like wildfire, fueling outrage among humans and stirring sympathy among other oppressed races. Marcus didn't waste the momentum. He reached out to resistance cells hidden in the shadows of Earth's ruins, rallying them under a single banner. His strategy was clear. Humanity had to fight not just for revenge but to show the galaxy what they were capable of. The Empire had dismissed humans as weak, but Marcus would ensure they never made that mistake again. As allies began to answer his call, the preparations for war accelerated. Marcus trained his forces with relentless precision, focusing on tactics that would exploit the Empire's weaknesses. Guerrilla warfare, asymmetric strikes, and sabotage became their tools. What they lacked in numbers and technology, they made up for with ingenuity and sheer determination. Marcus led every exercise personally, his presence a constant reminder of what was at stake. His soldiers followed him not just out of loyalty but because they believed in him. Meanwhile, the Empire remained oblivious to the storm brewing in the shadows. Reports of human activity reached their commanders, but these were dismissed as minor disturbances, unworthy of their attention. They failed to grasp the significance of the name Marcus Kane. Their arrogance, their inability to see the threat growing right under their noses, was the very thing Marcus counted on. He would use their overconfidence against them just as he had in the past. As the pieces fell into place, Marcus stood before his gathered forces, a motley group of soldiers, survivors, and allies from across the galaxy. He didn't offer them false hope or promises of an easy victory. Instead, he spoke the truth. The path ahead would be brutal, the cost of defiance steep. But he also made it clear that their fight was not just about vengeance. It was about reclaiming their dignity, their future, and their right to exist without fear.
"The Empire thinks we're broken," he said, his voice carrying over the crowd. "They think we've forgotten how to fight. Let's remind them who we are. Let's remind them why they should have left us alone." In that moment, Marcus wasn't just a man seeking revenge. He was a leader, a symbol of defiance, and the catalyst for a revolution that would shake the galaxy to its foundations. The Empire had no idea what was coming, but Marcus Kane did. And he was ready. The first strike was surgical, designed to send a message. Marcus and his team targeted a small Imperial outpost on the fringes of Earth's orbit, a key communications hub that relayed orders to nearby sectors. Using a combination of stealth and distraction, the team infiltrated the facility, disabling its systems before the Empire even realized they were under attack. By the time reinforcements arrived, the station was in ruins, and its destruction sent ripples of confusion through the Empire's ranks. To the galaxy, it was a bold statement. Humanity was not defeated. The Empire's response was predictable. They dispatched a fleet to Earth's vicinity, aiming to stamp out any resistance before it could grow. But Marcus anticipated their every move. Using his deep understanding of their tactics, he turned the Empire's superior numbers and technology against them. His forces laid ambushes, exploiting the terrain and using guerrilla tactics to whittle down their enemy's strength. Every engagement was a demonstration of Marcus's strategic brilliance. His fighters hit hard and vanished before the Empire could retaliate, leaving them chasing shadows. What began as a human rebellion quickly evolved into something larger. The galaxy was watching, and Marcus's actions resonated with other oppressed species. Messages of support started trickling in from distant worlds, small factions of alien resistance fighters, individuals with nothing left to lose, and even defectors from the Empire who had grown disillusioned with its tyranny. Marcus welcomed them all, weaving their diverse skills and knowledge into his strategy. The Empire underestimated the significance of this growing alliance. To them, humanity was still a minor inconvenience, a problem that could be solved with overwhelming force. But as Marcus's coalition began targeting larger and more vital installations, the Empire was forced to take notice. They launched a massive counteroffensive, flooding Earth's sector with ships and soldiers. The battles that followed were brutal, each one pushing Marcus's forces to their limits. One such battle unfolded in orbit above Earth. The Empire sent a fleet of warships to blockade the planet, aiming to starve out the resistance. But Marcus was prepared. Using salvage technology and the ingenuity of his engineers, he orchestrated an attack that turned the Empire's strength into their weakness. A chain reaction of sabotage within their fleet caused chaos, resulting in several of their ships being destroyed by their own weapons. The remaining vessels retreated, battered and humiliated. The fight wasn't without cost. Many of Marcus's soldiers fell in the struggle, their sacrifices weighing heavily on him. Yet their resolve only strengthened his determination. Each life lost was another reason to press forward, another reminder of the stakes. Marcus made sure every victory counted, spreading word of their successes to inspire hope across the galaxy. Within the Empire, fear began to take root. Commanders who had once dismissed the rebellion as a nuisance now spoke of Marcus Kane with unease. His name became a rallying cry for the oppressed and a source of dread for the oppressors. The Empire's leaders, still unwilling to admit their vulnerability, doubled down on their efforts to crush the rebellion. But their heavy-handed tactics only fueled the resistance further, turning isolated uprisings into a full-blown movement. For Marcus, this was more than a campaign, it was a reckoning. Every strike, every victory was a step closer to dismantling the Empire's facade of invincibility. He knew the fight was far from over, but with each battle won, the tide shifted further in humanity's favor. The galaxy was no longer silent. Marcus had lit a fire, and it was spreading faster than the Empire could extinguish it. They had underestimated him once. They would not survive the mistake a second time. The final push came with a clarity that Marcus had expected from the beginning. His war wasn't just about survival or resistance anymore. It was about ending the Empire's reign entirely. The plans for the assault on the imperial capital had been in the making for weeks. Every battle, every ambush, and every skirmish had led to this moment. The Empire's leaders, blinded by their arrogance, had concentrated their forces around their core worlds, believing no one would dare strike at the heart of their power. Marcus was about to prove them wrong. The resistance forces gathered, a coalition of humanity and alien allies forged in the fires of countless battles. This was no longer just a human fight. It had become a galactic rebellion against tyranny. Marcus's strategy was audacious. A multi-pronged assault designed to overwhelm the Empire's defenses and cut off its leadership in one decisive blow. The risks were enormous, and the cost would be steep, but there was no alternative. Victory here would mean liberation, not just for humanity but for all the oppressed races of the galaxy. As the fleet approached the imperial capital, the tension was palpable. The planet loomed ahead, its massive orbital defenses a testament to the Empire's paranoia. Marcus's forces launched their attack with precision, disrupting key defensive systems and creating openings for the main assault. Explosions lit up the void as the resistance fleet clashed with the Empire's armada. Ships burned on both sides, but the resistance pushed forward, driven by the determination of those who had lost everything. On the surface, chaos reigned. Resistance fighters infiltrated the capital, striking at critical infrastructure and engaging Imperial forces in brutal urban combat. Marcus himself led the ground assault, his presence galvanizing his troops. Every step forward was hard-won, every street a battlefield. Yet, despite the Empire's technological superiority, their forces faltered. Marcus's tactics turned their strength against them, exploiting weaknesses they hadn't even realized existed. The climax of the battle came when Marcus and a small team breached the Imperial Palace. The halls, once a symbol of the Empire's unassailable power, were now a war zone. Marcus moved with purpose, his every step a reminder of why he had come this far. At last, he reached the throne room, where the Emperor awaited him. The confrontation was as much a battle of wills as it was of weapons. The Emperor, cloaked in arrogance, sneered at Marcus, calling his rebellion a futile effort doomed to fail. But Marcus was unmoved. His words cut through the Emperor's bravado, a cold reminder of the lives the Empire had destroyed in its quest for dominance. "You called us weak," Marcus said, his voice steady. "You thought we'd stay silent. But you underestimated what a single act of cruelty could awaken. This isn't just about humanity. This is about every life you've trampled in your arrogance. And now you'll answer for it. The final blow came swiftly. As the Emperor fell, the Resistance's victory was sealed. Across the galaxy, news of the Empire's defeat spread like wildfire. The once mighty regime, built on fear and oppression, crumbled in the face of those it had underestimated. In the aftermath, Marcus stood amidst the ruins of the palace, the weight of his actions heavy on his shoulders. The war had taken everything from him, his family, his peace, his past. Yet, in their sacrifice, a new future had been born. The galaxy, no longer shackled by the Empire's rule, began to rebuild. Marcus returned to Earth, to the grave of his son, where he placed a fragment of the Imperial banner, a symbol of the tyranny he had destroyed. He spoke softly, his voice carrying the weight of both grief and triumph. "They thought they could silence us," he said. "But you, my son, reminded me what we fight for. You'll never be forgotten. And neither will those who gave everything to see this through." As the wind carried his words away, Marcus Kane walked into the horizon, a man who had turned his pain into a legacy that would echo across the stars.